In the past couple of days, you've heard a lot of huffing and puffing about free speech and freedom of the press and how those freedoms are currently imperiled by the White House. And to be clear, we are for free speech, unfettered, absolute free speech, the kind of speech guaranteed by the First Amendment and ratified consistently by the Supreme Court. We've defended that kind of free speech almost every night here for the past 2 years. Many others, mostly on the left, have attacked speech. So we know who's for free speech and who's against it, and we cannot help but notice that some of free speech's greatest enemies are now posing as its defenders all of a sudden. Take CNN, for example. It was CNN that almost single-handedly led the campaign to have broadcaster Alex Jones banished from the internet on the grounds that they didn't like what Jones had to say. Ultimately, CNN succeeded in doing that. The network convinced every major tech platform to ban Jones and his outlet, InfoWars. You don't have to like Alex Jones to see that as a terrifying loss for free speech, because it was exactly that. But CNN was not done trying to silence its critics. Last year, the cable network threatened an anonymous Reddit user for creating an anti-CNN meme. CNN threatened to expose his identity and ruin his life if it ever was criticized by him again. Now, CNN is claiming to defend free speech, only when it's their speech. You'll notice, by the way, that CNN did not object when the government threatened to imprison employees of the cable channel RT if they didn't register as foreign agents. Yes, RT is owned by a foreign government. So is the BBC. Until last year, much of the New York Times was owned by a foreign national. This is true of other news organizations, none of which has ever registered as a foreign agent. But because RT is owned by Russia, which the left believes got Donald Trump elected, it is fine with CNN if they are bullied and silenced. So call CNN what you will, but don't pretend they are defenders of the First Amendment. They are not. Victor Davis Hanson is a fellow at the Hoover Institution and a close watcher of all this. He joins us tonight. So I just want to be clear, we're always for free speech, especially speech that's offensive, even by obnoxious White House correspondents. But to see a channel that has lobbied against the right of others to say what they think is true to all of a sudden emerge as this defender of the First Amendment is nauseating.
Yeah, I think when people saw the suit, they asked themselves, was there anything in the past that Jim Acosta had said negatively that got him kicked out? And the answer was no. Is there anybody, MSNBC, do they get kicked out? The answer is no. Do other CNN reporters get kicked out? No, they have passes. So it was a particular type of behavior. And I mean, if you're arguing a case before the Supreme Court, you can't go in there and take pictures or interrupt the justice. They'll kick you out. And if you do it another time, they'll say, we don't want you pleading a case before the Supreme Court. Jim Acosta can't go in there barefooted and say, I want to express myself. There are certain protocols and norms of behavior, and he's violated them. That's one issue. And then it's not, this is sort of a psychodrama, Tucker. I mean, we remember that the prior administration monitored 20 AP reporters, and Fox's own James Rosen. Nobody filed a suit on behalf of James Rosen from CNN and said, my God, we only learned in 2013 that 3 years ago the man was being surveilled by the Attorney General. This is a violation of press freedom. We didn't hear that.
And you're not hearing CNN say anything about the voices being silenced now online by the big tech companies because they have unfashionable views. Can you, as a philosophical matter, support free speech in some cases but not in others?
No, I don't think you can. And then we get to another. If we want to talk about ethics and the protocols of the White House, CNN, 93% of their coverage, according to Shorenstein, is biased. And Trump had no problem with that. He has no problem when a CNN host, Kathy Griffin, holds a decapitated facsimile of his head. They have no problem when Anderson Cooper uses obscenity, or Reza Aslan says he's a piece of crap, or people that are guests and panelists say that he's a Russian asset or agent, or they invoke the Holocaust for comparison. Or people say that he's radicalized more people than ISIS, remember that? And they have these stories they keep running, you know, that Scaramucci is involved with a Russian hedge fund, false, that Trump knew in advance of the Russian meeting, that Donald Trump Jr. had access to the WikiLeaks. I remember when CNN was just explaining to us, as a matter of fact, that James Comey, within a matter of hours, was going to go into a congressional testimony and swear that Donald Trump had mischaracterized their private meeting about whether he was subject to process.
Wait, this doesn't make sense, though, because
it was all false.
CNN has argued that others should lose their voice, should be silenced because they're, quote, conspiracy theorists. But you're listing conspiracy theories that they have promulgated on their air.
Yeah, and they're also arguing that their type of behavior should not be subject to public scrutiny. Only Donald Trump's good. Protocol, manners, politeness. And that's what Trump's argument is. It's not the content, it's not the prejudice, it's not the unprofessionalism in the past. It's this particular time you went over the edge and you disrupted, you were rude, you took over an optional press conference. There's nothing in the Constitution that says he has to have a press conference. I can remember President Reagan saying, "I can't hear you." And when somebody yells to Donald Trump, he runs over and talks. So it's not only hypocritical on their fact, but it's a journalistic organization that has violated the ethos of reporting and journalism, then calling the kettle black and saying, "You can't do this. This is against White House protocol."
It's a shame to see a buffoon elevated to martyr status. But look, now that CNN's on the side of free speech, I'm sure they will be advocating for the right of all people to say what they think.
They could have sued in 2013 on the behalf of Fox and the AP.
Victor Davis Hanson, a man with a long memory, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.